Hello everybody, welcome to a new Training Tuesday. I'm shooting in my dining room today. The light is not the best, so bear with me. We're going to be talking about reward value today. This is a really important thing to be discussing if you find that you're having trouble with a dog that understands something or seems to understand something in one setting and it's not translating as well to another setting. Most often you see that in training class or in my living room. They sit every time or they totally understand what I'm saying, but then it seems like they don't understand anymore once we get outside. And sometimes that's not so much about your dog understanding as it is about your dog feeling sufficiently motivated to do that behavior in the environment they're in. So we're going to talk about reward value. How do we motivate those dogs? By giving them a reward that they find motivating. And that will vary in different scenarios and different settings. It's about knowing your dog, and we'll have a fun little assignment for you at the end because we think it's super important that you know your dog, and your dog is an individual. So some of the things we talk about in this video will vary from dog to dog. So the way we're approaching reward value today is we are going to use an analogy that I heard recently. I think it was on an interview with Susan Garrett, who's a wonderful trainer. Look up her stuff if you're interested in learning more. But the analogy was to think of your dog as a bartender. So a pretty standard practice when you're out at a bar is to give the bartender a better tip, $2, $3 for the first drink, and then just be tipping $1 per drink if you're getting something simple, like your bartender's just bringing you a beer, they're getting you an easy drink. Now everyone knows if the bar's really busy, if you're asking for really complicated drinks, you're gonna wanna be tipping more to keep getting the same level of service. Dog kind of works in a similar way. We can use things we've talked about in previous videos of ours, we've talked about on our post. We can use things that are a little less exciting for the dog if we are training in our living room, or if we're asking them to do a sit that they already know how to do. We can use their kibble. This is a great example of something you can use as a low value reward. Some treats will kind of work the same way for them. They'll accept the treat, they'll take it, they'll work for it, but they're not going to put forth a great amount of effort for that treat. So things that they already know, things that are easy for them, they don't have to put a whole lot of effort into them, and things that are in an environment that aren't very distracting, or an environment that they are already prepared for. Another example of low value reward could be just telling your dog good job. Some dogs that's going to be a bigger deal for than others. Some dogs a pat on the head is going to be a mid or high value reward. But I would say as a standard, unless you really see a lot of enthusiasm from your dog, kind of rate that as a low value reward. Rate that as something that we're going to give them for a more basic behavior or for something that we already expect them to know how to do. Now, mid-value rewards. This is thinking that you're giving your dog / bartender something a little more complicated to do, or you're asking for their attention in a slightly more distracting environment. The example we have on there is just some treats. There's the Play-Doh Small Bites treats that are actually high value for my dog Cujo, as was discussed on a Favorites Friday a couple weeks back. And there's also some treats from the Bark Box. Now, one of my dogs, Calamity, is extremely food motivated. The kibble already, I'm gonna be able to get a lot of novel behaviors. I'm gonna be able to get her attention in a lot of environments. So these treats you could count as high value. There's something a little more exciting than the kibble, and for a dog like Calamity, if I'm asking her to do something that's very difficult for her, I can use these treats and I can see her more motivated to be working with me than to be doing whatever it is that's very distracting, that's out in the environment around her. So mid-value treats, the treats that we have in that example for my dog Malachi would not even classify as low value. He does not like any of those. He's very picky. We have to use a lot of really high value rewards with him to get him motivated to do things. And then high value rewards. This is tipping with 20s. You're in a crowded bar. So what is a crowded bar to your dog? What is a really complicated drink order for your dog, the bartender? For example, my dog Cujo has been working on a handstand for a while. This is very difficult for her. She's not confident having her feet up over her head. And some dogs, that's not as difficult for them. For her, that was something that she's really shaky on. So she's now placing her feet up over her head on the wall really consistently, doing a great job. But that's kind of a complicated drink order for her. You know, that's a big ask, and what I'm asking her to do is very challenging. If you're asking your dog to do a really long amount of heel work or a really long stay, consider making that reward more worth it because you're asking them for more effort. So high value reward, we had the little piece of raw steak in there that Malachi was sniffing. Actual human food, meat, cheese, think smelly stuff. I hear a lot of people use smelt, little sardines in a can. Hot dogs are a really common one. I'm not a huge fan of hot dogs, and neither are my dogs, but if your dogs love it, that's perfect. We use a lot of just raw meat in my house. I also will sometimes boil it if I don't want to be handling raw meat a whole lot that day, but that tends to be your real high value rewards. And some dogs, you can use certain toys. If you have a dog that's ball crazy, start thinking of that ball as a high value reward. Think of ways you can work that in where your dog's earning that for behavior. I also mentioned that in addition to big asks being what you're actually asking them to do, say like a complicated blended drink order for the bartender dog or like Cujo's handstand, it's also the crowded bar. So what is it that is gonna really compete with you and with your reward for your dog's attention and for your dog's motivation? And that's also gonna vary by each dog. I know a lot of people out there, I'm looking at you, people that have like a German short-haired pointer, people that have setters. Birds are going to be a challenge. If you're out working someplace where there's birds, especially if there's a bird that seems to be in distress, your dog is probably going to be very hard to motivate to look at you unless you already have a really good groundwork in there. And that's because of what your dog was bred to do and because that bird is very interesting to your dog. So looking at you instead of a bird in distress is a huge ask for some hunting breeds. Big ask. Now, my dogs, I have a livestock guardian breed, a small toy breed, Spitz, Pomeranian, and I have a herding dog. Sometimes if a bird's like on the ground and they can chase it off, maybe a little bit if there's nothing else interesting to do, but my dogs are not interested in a bird. So something that's a really big ask for someone with a bird dog is not going to be a big ask for my dogs. And I use that term big ask as what are you asking your dog to do that's huge? Asking a dog that knows how to sit in the living room, it's a little ask, tiny. Asking those setters we were just talking about to heel while looking at their person when there's birds nearby, big ask. Now, the birds, little ask for my dogs. Another dog walking by, that becomes a much bigger ask for my dog Malachi. Passing by food on the ground, which is something she can do and something we've worked on, but that is a big ask for Calamity, as we have established she's very food motivated. So what I want you to do over the next 2 weeks is to really reflect on your dog, on your training so far, and to give them a couple different treats to try out, because we want to see everyone comment in the comment section, either here on YouTube or on the Facebook page if you're watching there. That's awesome. That's where we'd love for you to be. Comment and tell us what a really high value reward is for your dog, and comment and tell us what a big ask is for your dog. What is something, either a physical behavior or some kind of distraction that is very difficult for your dog to engage in or stay engaged with you during. And we are going to select one person who comments to receive a little Christmas gift for their dog from Leaps and Bounds. So that should be cute. And And we are kind of starting to get into the ease of things with these Training Tuesday videos. We think we're gonna do them every other week. And you may have noticed already, we're kind of staggering between a video that teaches directly how to teach a certain behavior. So far we've done sit and recall. And then the next video following that will be a video that talks about a concept. So today's concept is reward value. In the past, we talked about the concept of using markers. And we would love to start having a conversation. We'd love to see some of you engage with these posts. If anyone has any questions, if anyone has a request for a behavior for us to start learning or something about dog training conceptually that you would like us to kind of dive into and talk about, I think right now you can look forward to our next video 2 weeks from now. Training Tuesday will be about teaching a stay. Please comment for your dog, the big ask, what is difficult for them, and a high value reward, what is something they really love that motivates them to perform for you. We look forward to seeing everybody's answers. Thank you and have a good week.